Today, I'm going to be answering a question that's on a lot of people's minds right now, and that is, are home prices going to come down at some point in 2024? I'll be sharing a lot of statistics around home prices, inventory, mortgage rates, why the current market is nothing like 2008, and some reasons why the Asheville market is a little bit different than some other places. Welcome back to my channel, everyone. My name is Kara, and there's a lot to cover today, so let's dive right in. When we're asking the question of where are home prices going to go, I think it's important to first start out with where are they right now. Nationally, the average sale price dropped from its peak of $553,000 in Q4 of 2022 to $492,000 in Q4 of 2023. At the same time, the median sale price dropped from its peak of $480,000 in Q4 of 2022 to $418,000 in Q4 of 2023. Let's narrow this down a little bit further and look at just the state of North Carolina. This chart shows a home price index for the state. What exactly does this home price index mean? The home price index is a broad measure of the movement of single-family house prices. It is a weighted repeat sales index, meaning that it measures average price changes in repeat sales or refinancing on the same properties. This information is obtained by reviewing repeat mortgage transactions on single-family properties whose mortgages have been purchased or securitized by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac since January 1975. As you can see, this chart does look a bit different than the national charts. Prices in North Carolina have, on average, continued to increase and haven't seen declines. Let's focus even more locally and look at some numbers for the Asheville region. The median sale price for the Asheville region, which includes 13 counties, has been steadily increasing year over year for the past decade. Okay, so overall, on a national level, prices have started to decline from their peak in 2022, but on a local or North Carolina state level, prices have not dropped and have continued to increase. We all know that it was historically low interest rates that really triggered the housing boom in 2021 and 2022. When interest rates peaked at 8% last year, demand certainly dropped off, but it didn't completely disappear. I've mentioned in my past couple housing market update videos that mortgage rates are likely going to decline at some point this year. If they drop by any significant amount, it's likely that we're going to see a lot of prospective home buyers come off the sidelines and start looking at properties again. There is a lot of pent-up demand in the market. Demand is certainly going to increase if interest rates drop, and yes, inventory will increase as well, though it's not likely that inventory will increase to the amount that we need to reach home buyer demand. It's highly unlikely that rates are going to drop back into the 2s or 3s, and that's where quite a few homeowners have their interest rates locked in. The main factor keeping prices elevated is low inventory, so let's dive into that a little bit further. Nationally, housing inventory has been declining every year since its peak in 2008. Locally in the Asheville region, inventory is roughly half of what it was in 2019. There are many reasons why inventory is so low. For starters, in 2020, builders actually scaled back their production instead of increasing it. As everyone knows, 2020 was a bit of an unusual year, but homebuyer demand definitely escalated towards the end of that year and in 2021 and 2022. Home builders just could not keep up with the amount of demand. In addition to this, current homeowners don't want to sell their property because they have nowhere to go. If they sell their property, they'll be in the same situation of a lot of prospective home buyers looking for a home when inventory is so incredibly low. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. In addition to this, there's the golden handcuffs or lock-in effect, where, like I said earlier, plenty of homeowners have interest rates locked in the 2s or 3s, even 4s, and they really don't have any interest in selling their property and buying a new one where their interest rate is going to be significantly more, and therefore their monthly payment will be a lot more. Yet another reason is that a lot of retirees are choosing to age in place instead of move. This is a trend that is different from prior generations. Interestingly, people aged 50 or older own 70% of the homes in the country. According to the 2020 U.S. Census Bureau, 1 in 6 Americans are over the age of 65. There are some people out there that naturally think, with this many people being retirement age, surely a lot of these people are going to want to sell their homes and there will be a wave of inventory hitting the market. This is not necessarily the case. We are seeing different trends for boomers compared to, say, the silent generation. Many are choosing to stay in place and convert their current properties to be more retirement friendly. Some will, of course, decide to downsize and then be competing with millennial and Gen Z homebuyers, making it harder for those generations to afford or buy a home because typically older generations will be buying more in cash. Recently, Merrill Lynch released an age wave report, and I found the statistics in there very interesting. Surprisingly, 65% of older Americans plan to stay in their home. Additionally, and I found this next statistic quite unusual, 49% of retirees plan to actually upsize their homes. I'm not sure if this is because of maybe multi-generational housing or what exactly the reason is here, but I thought that was interesting and worth sharing. Talking more locally now, according to the Census Bureau's most recent data, which was between 2018 and 2022, for Buncombe County, only 64.4% of housing units in the county are owner-occupied, which is further tightening the housing market for those seeking a primary residence. For those of you that have watched my January housing market update video, you likely remember that Buncombe County is proposing some restrictions against short-term rentals on a county-wide level. It'll be interesting to hear how any restrictions that are passed will ultimately impact this figure and maybe boost the number of homes that are available as primary residences. Nothing has been set in stone yet with those restrictions, but I will certainly keep you all posted. I want to take a couple minutes in today's video to explain why the current housing market is nothing like 2008. I believe that a lot of people probably get it by now and maybe don't believe that we're in a housing market bubble or going to see any sort of massive crash. But in case any of you that are watching still believe that that is a possibility, definitely listen up to this part of the video. Housing inventory is historically low right now. This is the total opposite of what we saw in 2008, where housing inventory peaked. Additionally, lending standards are much more strict these days. Back in 2008, there were risky lending products that were being pushed, and credit score requirements were significantly lower than they are today. In addition to that, today's homeowners are sitting on a ton of equity. If they happen to be going down the path of foreclosure, it's highly likely they could sell their property and use the profits to pay off those debts. Ultimately, today's market doesn't look anything like it did in 2008, so it's not really comparable to that time. I want to talk a little bit now about why Asheville's market is quite different than a lot of others across the country. A study recently released by Mayflower Transit showed that those moving to Asheville made up 2/3 of the people actively moving. In other words, there are more people moving to Asheville than leaving. This, of course, impacts supply and demand dynamics because, as you can see, there's a lot of demand moving into the city and not as much leaving, meaning we're going to have high demand and not enough inventory to ultimately meet that demand. In addition to this, people are frequently selling their expensive properties in Florida, Colorado, Texas, California, you name it. They're selling their properties in those states, moving here to Asheville, and buying with cash. I know this is a point of contention for a lot of locals, and I totally get it. You know, there's people that are making their wealth elsewhere, moving into the area, and ultimately able to buy cash, whereas a lot of local people maybe can't afford to do that. Maybe the wage that they're getting at their job just doesn't meet what those other people have made, or it's older generations that are moving in that have made their money in previous years and buying properties here, increasing prices, and ultimately pricing out some locals and younger generations. This is happening across the country, not just in Asheville, but Asheville is drawing a lot of people from other areas. That brings me to my next point, which is if you've researched Asheville at all, you've probably seen our city mentioned in some top lists across the country, whether it's top places to live, top places to visit, top places to have a vacation home, or best food places, best music, etc. Asheville is frequently popping up in a lot of these top lists. And so that is definitely boosting the demand of people that want to move here, or even maybe they don't want to live here permanently, but they want to buy a vacation home here, for example. So in conclusion, I'm not going to provide any exact estimates or projections for what might happen in terms of home prices on a national level or even in other markets across the country. I'm really just focused on the Asheville area, and with all of these statistics and facts that I've shared with you today, I think it's a pretty safe bet that home prices are not likely going to be declining in the Asheville region anytime soon. I'm really curious to hear your opinion as well. Has your viewpoint maybe changed since you clicked on the video, and now after watching through, do you maybe feel a little bit differently? Is there a particular statistic that you found particularly eye-opening? I would love to hear about it in the comment section below. Also, before I end out this video, I just want to say I realize that this topic might come off as really negative, really like doomsday, like it's never gonna get better, home prices are always going to be high, there's no hope anymore. But that's really not the point I'm trying to get across. Ultimately, I wanted to share all of this data with you because I know that there are people out there who have said, I just want to wait to buy a home until home prices decline. And maybe they can actually afford to buy a property now, but they just think that it's going to make more financial sense to buy it later. The point in making this video is to say, ultimately, that's probably not the case. And it actually might make sense for you to start looking at buying a property right now. That is, of course, if you can afford it. I do understand that affordability is not great right now. It's pretty much near an all-time low. However, if you are able to afford today's home prices and today's interest rate, if interest rates end up dropping in the future, then you can always refinance. But if you're waiting specifically for home prices to drop, I really don't think that's going to happen here around Asheville. If you look back at decades of housing data, you'll see that home prices almost always go up. And the longer you hold on to your property, the more likely you're going to gain equity in it. Even if you were one of those super unlucky people that bought at the peak of the housing market back in 2007, right before the 2008 crash, if you would have held on to your property until 2013, so ultimately like 5 or 6 years later, you would have likely broken even or possibly made a bit of money. So ultimately, if homeownership is your dream, I would say don't focus so much on the super short-term price action. Zoom out and take a look at the larger picture, and I hope that this video helps you do that in some way and ultimately show you that it's not all hopeless. If you buy a property now, you can start gaining equity in that property today. If you guys would like to see more videos like this in the future that are kind of along the same vein of the housing market update videos, but more of like a deep dive on a particular topic, definitely let me know. Leave me a comment down below, hit that like button, share this video with your family and friends, subscribe of course if you are not already, and I will see you very soon in the next one.